Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Margarita from the Centro Colombo Americano. Today, we are joined by a communicator and journalist whose career has woven through cultural literature, audiovisual production, and digital strategy. She holds a degree in communications and journalism from Universidad Javeriana, is an ISFJ fellow, and a specialist in children's and young adult literature. Her work spans major Colombian and international media outlets from Revista Semana and Revista Pesquisa to the Texas Tribune and the Austin American Statesman. She has also shaped communication strategies for Cine Colombia and Dynamo Studios, and now leads the communications department at CERLAC, strengthening the visibility of books culture across Iberoamerica. Welcome to Artist Talk. Thank you so much, Daniela, for joining us.
Thank you, Margot, for inviting me today. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I thanks the Colombo Americano from Bucaramanga for the invitation. I really enjoy speaking about the things that I love the most, that are books, as you may see behind me. It's different for me to speak about books in English.
Mhm.
As I may say in Spanish, it's more fluently, so I hope all the messages and topics that I explore here are clear. And of course, if anyone have further questions about it, I will be glad to answer them. So, as Margarita was saying, I'm gonna change the first slide. This is a comic, perhaps yes, a comic book from Grant Snyder.
Mhm.
He is an illustrator, and I really love this particular image in which he refers to his bookshelves. And I believe most of us have at least one favorite book in our lifetime, but in a way we don't question ourselves. How does these magnificent books and text arrive to our bookshelf, either
Mhm.
if we read it or not? So Margarita was introducing me. I think I'm going to skip this part, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my current job. I
Mhm.
work at CERLAC UNESCO, which is the regional center for promotions book and for promotion books and reading in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we work uh, to help the 21 countries from Iberoamerica to strengthen their policies in reading and books and all the written culture. So it's an organization from UNESCO that exists in Colombia since 1971, and we work for all the countries in Iberoamerica in Spanish and Portuguese. Um, so it's really interesting for me to speak about books in not only as thing that I love, but also in my workplace. And we also work to create sus- sustainable publishing ecosystems across Latin America and the Caribbean, and um, strengthen the, as we call it in Spanish, LEP, which is libraries, reading, and writing, the three topics. So I will talk about CERLAC forward, but it's important that you know that even it's not open to the public,
Mhm.
it's a center that works for the governments and for the people, so you can have the books on your bookshelves.
Great.
So I'm gonna start this talk with uh, the book value change, which can tell us how is the journey from the manuscript to the reader.
Mhm.
Then I'm going to talk about the key book institution, so you can know more about how other institutions can help in if you want to publish something,
Okay.
and the books in the digital age. Um, that it was a question from Margarita of how do we deal with this idea about is people reading, not reading?
Mhm.
How is the attention span with all the apps and social media? So I'm gonna explore a little bit in this topic with some publication from CERLAC, because uh, even though I'm not on behalf of CERLAC
Mhm.
in this talk, we have a lot of tools that can be useful for all the person interested in these matters. So
Awesome.
the first questions I have for readers and the people who is going to watch this live later is, how does a book find its way to your hands?
Mm-hmm.
And as you see, there's a distance between the author and the reader. And here is the book, no?
Yeah.
And this invisible line has a lot of actors that can transform, refine, and distribute and promote the work. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy that I have a book in my bookshelf. It has a way to get into the hands of the reader. In that sense, I have an example in children's literature. As Margarita says previously, I study an specialization
Mm-hmm.
in Javeriana University in children's and young adult literature. And I'm going to introduce you to Hervé Toulet, which is a French author that it's one of my favorites because he creates books as in Spanish we say, I don't know if Margarita quizás me puedes corregir, libro objeto. He's he create books or children's books that are not necessarily narrative, but are always telling a story in a sort of way and also informative. And I wanted to put him as an example because FB has a really creative, really interesting creative process. And you may see him just drawing perhaps, but the first step is creating the manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can you come from, this is like the raw material, you need to create a book, the manuscript, even though it's an illustration, even though it's text, it depends on what the author wants to express.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the book, the final book you have, and then how do we get to this point where the book is opened by a child
Mm-hmm.
or by an adult, right? So, as I was saying, the manuscript is the raw material of the book industry. It's like leather before it comes shoes. And unlike other consumer goods, books have a cultural dimension. They shape imagination, they have an identity, they help in a social construction. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you go from the manuscript to the publication and then to the reader? These are the three core pillars and are important because they are the key to any path you decide in how you want to publish a book. So, as I was saying, the first step for an author or anyone interested in creating a work to be published as a book is the first step, the manuscript. But then what can you do with that? So there are different intermediaries that add value in this book value chain. So
Mm-hmm.
the author is the creator of his idea and the one that has something to tell by a drawing, by text, by any kind of form that you want to express. The book is the content or the content, and I don't know which is the word exactly in English, but in Spanish we say la obra del autor. I don't know if it's the work because I think it's too small for la obra. But it's the first step to create a big compound of how can I say this, cuerpo, like the body
Yeah.
of writing in another. And as you may see, these yellow dots between the book content and the publication, and how the publication gets to be in a format and distributed and in circulations, there are two major um, actors, the literary agencies and the
Mm-hmm.
editors and publishing houses. So you are an author and you have the book and the content. You already have it. What can you do? So the literary agencies are the one that negotiates the rights and represent the author. It's like the manager of the musician.
Uh-huh.
So in the same kind of relation. And the editors and publishing houses are the one that acquire the rights. sometimes from the literary agency, and develop the manuscript and turn them into books and design. And
Okay.
then you have the publication, which is the last step, but it's not the last step never, because you have to continue distributions. So these actors or agents, um, they have a key role in the book value chain because they decide what's published and what's not. So you may ask, what happens if I'm not a writer yet? I don't have any kind of, I'm not famous. I don't know who to reach, what to do. So there are many ways to get. First, you have to have the manuscript and to introduce yourself to the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to know that, like some tips. But the literary agency are always looking for new authors, and
Mm-hmm.
how can you can reach them sometimes, for example, at book fairs, and
Oh,
by listening or searching. I think most of the writers that want to publish, they have to do a research in order to be published, to know who is what is the kind of publishing house they want to be published on, which are the best ones that represent their values. So
mm-hmm.
literary agency help you negotiate with the publishing houses. For example, when you are publishing your first book with an publishing house, you can negotiate in which language, in which territory, for how many years they are publishing your work, la obra.
Mm-hmm.
However, um, the however, no. So when they acquire those rights,
Yeah.
they have also, as the author, have some homeworks, if I may put it this way. So
Mm-hmm.
the editors and publishing houses have the marketing and all um, I forgot the word in English, the obligation to um, produce and circulate the book, right?
Yes.
And you as an author have the obligation also to participate in book fairs, to give talks. So there are a lot of steps that are forward, that are
Mm-hmm.
after publication are important. But it's important for you, if you're either a writer, an illustrator, as I showed you before with Hervé Toulet, that you know what are the roles of these actors in the book value chain. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always necessary to have a literary agent.
Okay.
Sometimes the agent can help you to get into the publishing houses, but there are other ways. For example, grants, contests, government incentive that, for example, from Planeta Alfaguara contest. No, different
Mm-hmm.
kind of spaces where you can, if you are not a known writer, you can apply in this kind of places. I'm gonna zoom in the editors and publishing houses, because it's important to understand which is the publishing model you want to apply. So
Okay.
if you want to publish a book, there are a variety of paths to follow. So there's the traditional way. For example, Planeta, Alfaguara, Penguin Random House, the big houses that own different kinds of sellos,
Mm-hmm.
editoriales, where you can publish your book. There's co-publish or coedición in Spanish. There are independent publishing houses, the small ones. For example, in children's book, we can think in Colombia, Cataplum, for example,
Mm-hmm.
which is a small independent children books publishing house. Self-publishings, if you want to self-publish your manuscript, there are many ways. There are online, you can publish it, and then you can do all the distribution, for example, via Amazon. That's another
Okay.
talk. And there are publishers that are specialized in self-publishings. So they help you as a client, sort of way, to publish your book. And also there are digital platforms as Wattpad, such as Wattpad and Webtoons. I don't know if you know these platforms that were born initially as a way. I don't know if you have heard the term fan fiction, which
Mm-hmm.
is the content created by the fans of a book. So in Wattpad, for example, many authors were discovered and then became famous because of the text they create for this digital platform. So there are really many ways if you want to show off your manuscripts. So what are these key actors in the book ecosystem? So all of these roles that you see in this line and the distance between the author and the reader are key for the book to reach your bookshelf or your hand. And we are all working together for the reader. At
Mm-hmm.
the end, we work for them to buy it, for them to read it, and to enjoy it. And so, um, in addition to the literary agency and the editor publishing houses that I already explained, as I example here with Penguin, Grupo Planeta, Phaidon, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there are other key actors as the distributor, the bookstores and other kinds of shops, and the book reviewers. So the distributors are, for example, there you may never see a distributor in like a library. It's not that. It's an organization that do all the logistics of the books. What do I mean? You have a book, a Planeta made a new book. So to sell it to the, oh, did I raise my hand? I'm sorry. Um, Planeta create a new book and it has to go to all the bookstores. So how does it do it? Through a distributor. So for example, in Colombia, Plaza y Janés Editores and La Diligencia Libros
Mm-hmm.
are two examples of distribution. Plaza y Janés distributes books from Spain. So all the books from children literature, for example, from Coquinos, Alma, sometimes Phaidon, but perhaps that's, I believe that's a French publishing house. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry because I don't know right in this moment. But for example, Coquinos and Alma, they they bring the books, import the books to Colombia, and then go to the bookstores in that where you can buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the link between the publishers and the point of sale. So
Okay.
it's important to understand that you don't see the distribution, but they are moving the books around you in a sort of way. And for example, La Diligencia Libros, it's a great distribute such a difficult word to pronounce, distributor in Colombia, because it helps move, distributes books from independent publisher houses. So, for example, Laguna Libros.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I forgot the name of this other, but the small little publishers, as I said before, Cataplum, um, perhaps Babel no, Rey Naranjo. So
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of small publishers that don't have the big hands to go straight to the bookstores go to the La Diligencia, and La Diligencia help them distribute their titles in the different bookstores. You may see in book fairs such as Filbo in Colombia
Mm-hmm.
stands of Plaza y Janesa La Diligencia. And you may say, why? But there are not publishing houses, and there are not bookstores. And it's because this is a platform for them to show effectively the books of the small little publishing houses. So it's important for you to understand if I'm being clear. And
Yeah.
I decide to write this above the line because even though in between the author and, as I told you, and the reader, it's this big distance.
Mm-hmm.
As an author that want to publish, there are contests, book fairs, and incentives. So if you don't, you say, I don't have a I don't have a publisher. I don't have a literary agent. of course, you don't have a distributor. What can I do? So in between these, if you want to reach your reader, you can, as I said before, apply to contest, go to the book fairs to network with the different actors of the book value chain and apply to grants and different incentives that can help you create the book. Because I didn't mention it before, but there's another publishing model that it's called in Spanish edición comunitaria, where you have like a net of support in order to produce the book that you want, but it's intent to help or to talk about a specific topic, for example.
Okay.
There's another way, like you can publish fanzines,
Mm-hmm.
or you can, or there's edición cartonera, which it depends on the in the form you want to publish the book. So it depends on which is your raw material, your how is your manuscript, and how do you think and you want the book to be. The bookstores are the actor, and it's one of the most key actors because it's the one that have relationship with the reader. So it's the only one that the reader can reach out for help, for recommendations. So it's the one who knows who likes what.
Yeah.
So it's a key to understand that for example, if you want to distribute your book in specialized bookstores, to know well which is the public or the audience that it's buying the books in that place. And you gotta remember that in bookstores and also the distributors, they don't only distribute books, but others publishing products. For example, small writing notebooks, pens, all the accessories you want for your books, perhaps. So this is other line. This is another line of the value chain. So I have this little dot here, libraries, because I'm so sorry if I mix the concept of bookstores and libraries, but of course they're not the same. And if people are wondering what happened, why are not the libraries in the book value chain? So as this is a value chain, I'm referring to a consumer good, right? Libraries are not commercial actors. So even though they are not part of the book value chain, they are part of the book ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
because they have the infrastructure to scale and give access to books and reading. And not all the people may have the access to bookstores, but they may have the access to libraries to lend a book or to listen authors or to navigate another kind of content they don't have possibly they can possibly buy.
Mm.
And last but not least, and these are key actors in order to reach the reader, are the book reviewers. And I write it here in Spanish because I think the word is more, the concept is more beautiful. It's
Mm-hmm.
instancias de prescripción, which refers to bookstagrammers, journalists, critics, investigators, YouTubers, bloggers, all the people that review books. For example, a book club is a instancia de prescripción
Mm-hmm.
because it's a space where you have chosen a book for some reason. So you are saying, I prescribe you these books because it's good, because you like children's books. So it's another, are all the places and people that review books in, for example, suplementos culturales and in specialized magazines, but also the YouTubers or TikTokers that talk about books in all sort of way. And this is key because in this stage, when you finish, you start with your manuscript, and then let's say you have your agent and you publish the book and the book is being distributed and reaching bookstores. Now, what's next? You have to go to talks, you have to go to the bookstore, you have to do signs of books, you have to do interviews. So this is the part of communication that is really important for authors, because sometimes authors just, it's fine for you to write because it's the key, but it's important for you to sell what you write
Of course,
and to
yeah.
reach the reader. So it's always important to keep into account that you are selling a product, which of course have a cultural importance, but you are selling something. So you have to do all the marketing and
Yeah.
communication that's relevant for it to get in the bookshelves. I don't know if you have any questions for now, but then we can resolve. And I want to close this first part of the talk with a little bit of what I was saying before, that authors can finish the manuscript, but this is just the beginning, because you have to promote it, you have to circulate it, you have to build a public presence, and this can help. We can talk this in another talk, but the cycle of a book is long as you decided how to promote it. The second topic I want to address today is the key book institutions you should know, because the books don't just arrive, as you see, to the bookshelf. So it's important for you to know which are the policies or the reading programs in your culture ministries in your countries. Colombia have a solid policy in reading and a strong public library network, BiblioRed, for example.
Mhm.
So it's important for you to know this kind of institutions, because sometimes they offer grants, they offer training, funding, and they can help you do the first step when you want to publish the manuscript. For example, an international institution important in this in libraries is the IFLA, which is the International Federation of Libraries, Associations, and Institutions. So these institutions holds all the libraries associations in the world. There's a part of Latin America, IFLA-LAC, and there is IFLA like worldwide.
Mhm.
um, and they refer to policies. They have discussion with librarians. They have like a more um, how can I say this, like a relation with governments
Okay.
uh, and with institutions, for example, as CERLAC.
Mhm.
Um, one of the most important libraries in children's literature is the International Youth Library Jugendbibliothek in Munich. Is the library that have the biggest collection in the world. Is a castle, so beautiful,
Oh.
and it have over 20,000 books since the beginning of children's literature, like as
Oh.
we know it right now in the modern times. So it's really interesting for you to search it, because it has a lot of fellowship programs if you're interested in libraries and promoting reading. The and that's something I didn't get to say. I'm sorry. Here is that in these book reviewers are, as we call it in Colombia, mediadores, or in Spanish, or
Mhm.
in Colombia, los mediadores de lectura y la promoción de lectura, because there's a way in how in how you approach a book, either to a children or to an adult. So in as we go to these international key institutions, some of them can help you with ideas of how to promote reading in children, or how to create new ways of promoting this kind of books or in this kind of audience. So it's another way of approaching the book ecosystem. Not that if you are not a writer, for example, but you're interested in understanding how to promote a book and how to promote reading, it's another path you can take. CERLAC, as I was saying previously, is an international institution that works across Iberoamerica in policy of reading and reading and book policies and reading.
Mhm.
It's different to say in English, I'm sorry. And there's another institution that is for children literature, that it's the International Board of Book for Young People, IBI, and it have different offices around the world. There's a Latin American office, there is an European office, and they work to enhance children literatures around the world. For example, they have a lot of awards, and they do a lot of research on how to um, work with certain kind of book with children. What, for example, what to do in the middle of a war, how do we approach children with difficult topics. So
Mhm.
they do this kind of analysis. Book fairs are also important in this ecosystem. Main, just to say here, Filbo, Guadalajara in Mexico, Bologna in Italy, which is the fair exclusively for children literature. And of course, the art councils, residents, and grants are key for you to be prepared and to get into this wonderful world that it's books. So it's important for you to search which are the contests, the grants, the fellowships that they offer, because there are spaces for you to train and also to connect, because this is the you may know the institution, but you have to work on how you network your work. Sorry about the redundancy, but is how do you present yourself also as an author, or as someone who is interested in promoting books, or as someone that want to be an editor. So it depends in which line of the chain you want to be. And so a little bit of these are like baby steps if you want to publish a book. In this on the right, I put a picture of Hervé Toulet's first book, which is Comment je sauvé maman et Comment je sauvé mon papa. And you may see a little bit of a difference between both. I believe this one, if I'm not wrong, this was his first book, and then this was his second book. Um, and his path to publish nowadays, as he does, begin with this. So it's like a sort of inspiration. So
Mhm.
what do you want to do with your project? You want to do a picture book, you want to do an art book, and illustrate poetry, something hybrid. You have to prepare a submission kit, for example, which is your artist statement, which are your samples if you wanna illustrate. Do you have a storyboard? Do you have a manuscript fragment? All the elements that can take your story to another level. And as I showed you before, which is your publishing path? A traditional publishing, independent, self-published, handmade, digital forms, which is the more approachable for you. At the same time, you gotta start building alliance with editors, designers, photographers. If, for example, you are a good illustrator, but you don't know what story should you add to that illustration, so connect with the writers you want to do it, and then start working as a team. So it's more solid for someone to introduce themselves to a publisher as a team. I have the illustration, I have the writer, so it can be better for you and you have more chances. And of course, as I was saying, seek support and apply to the grants. It doesn't matter if you don't not are not sure, or you don't have all the credits you think you have to have. Apply to the grants and follow correctly the instructions. Don't wait for the last minute to apply for a grant, because there are a lot of little steps you have to follow, um, especially in the ones that are international. So be careful when you apply. And as I have written here, publishing is not only the creative act; it's also strategic, and you have to do the work of circulate the books you are wanting to be in the bookshelf. And last but not least, Um, Margarita asked me about this, especially, and how do we keep doing books in this era where we see kids in the phone, or we
Mm.
see adults not connecting with stories, and the attention span is while you are watching a movie, you are in your scrolling in your phone. And in CERLAC, we published this dossier of essays in 2024, and I really love the title, El libro contra todo lo demás, the book against everything else. I don't know if it's the
Mhm.
right translation. It's this saying is from the one of the authors, Michael Tambling, and basically what the authors do in this essay, in this dossier, is trying to understand the new paradigm and the new ways in which we are, how we are related, how we are, um, cómo nos estamos relacionando is the saying,
Yeah.
with the books, and with with the words, con la palabra. So some conclusions that are, of course, far from being completely accurate, because these are really, I really invite you to search on this dossier. Perhaps books and screens are not enemies, and they have different time and place and culture environments to be used. Sometimes you need to read on a Kindle or in your phone or in the computer, but that doesn't mean you are not reading. We are always reading, and we have sometimes a limited belief that reading is just words, but we also read images.
Mhm.
That's in Spanish called literariedad visual. And so it's important to understand that we are reading every single time. So we might have to think which is the time and place where I can read in this format. Also, it's clear that when you read on paper, the attention is better. That's not a lie. So it helps you strengthen memory, comprehend mejor, comprehend better. I'm sorry, the topics, and have focus on what you're reading. And it's also understanding that a book is a slow technology. And even though we are in these hyper accelerated times, and with artificial intelligence on the way, uh, books help us create like a safe space for us, and to reach and to calm a little bit our senses. For children, this experience of intangible books and not necessarily screens is much better for them, because it also grounds them in a ritual and in a way. And I'm gonna say here, not that perhaps it's not mentioned in this publication, but the moment when you approach a child to read, it's crucial for their development in many aspects. So how you read it, how you pronounce a word, or how you, for example, read, how a wolf will scream to a child, or how every onomatopoeia you do made while reading to a child, it's different than promoting a book. So it's important for them, and I would invite you to have spaces to read for them and with them, not just read the book, but to present the book in their same height. And it's not the we are saying if books are better than screens. It's simply different how we can balance these, the cognitive, um, we can, I'm sorry, I just want to say it's different how we approach books and how we approach screens. So it's different, the cognitive value of a print book versus reading on digital. So books will remain a culture, vital in our culture, and it always it's not like the book will disappear. I don't think
Mhm.
so. It's powerful to disappear. Um, but at least I invite you to read this publication because, of course, it's more profound on the analysis and how we can question ourselves on this new paradigm of how the book um, can talk between technology and how we work with this. So this is some of the reference I was referring to. So first, there's a course we did in Cerlac, a little bit of the interview I did to Hervé Toulé for a blog. That's my blog, Y Si Me Cuentas Un Cuento. That's why you see the brand. And of course, the publication of Cerlac. So thank you so much for this space. I hope this was clear and that we can keep on talking about books more profoundly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Danny, for everything. Thank you for opening this window into the life of books, how they're made, how they travel, and why they still matter so deeply. Conversations like these remind us that every book is a collective effort and a
Right.
cultural investment that we should continue to promote and to work on. And how the strengthening that ecosystem is strengthening as well our capacity to imagine, to question, and of course to grow. So thank you so much for your time and your words. I think it was very interesting and it will be very helpful for people who want to get involved with book publishing, who want to start to get involved with this, and everyone who joined us, thank you for staying with us. You can leave the comments on the you can leave questions on the comments, and I think this is a conversation that we will keep on repeating because it is very important. I consider it very important to keep doing books, to keep getting people to read, to not get disconnected with this beautiful object. So thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope the concepts were clear. If not, you can leave the questions and I will try to explain it. And hopefully to see you again in this space for La Colombo Americana.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.